Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Hi everyone, introduce my name is Maryam Padi from Group 1 Chemical Class B. Okay, I will present the result of the experiment that have been carried out in the inorganic practicum. As for the title of this experiment, namely the modification of sulfur and the purpose of this threat, and 1. To study self-modification of sulfur, and 2. To study characteristic of hydrogen sulfide and H2SO4. And literature review, sulfur or sulfur is a crystalline solid that is highly reactive with all elements except gold, platinum, iridium, tellurium, and the noble gases. However, sometimes it exists in the form of a neat sleeping salt. Sulfur usually occurs as sulfate and sulfate mineral. And the tools and material used are mortar, test tube, stirring rod, measuring cup, measuring flask, white glass, pipette drop, beaker, analytical balance, bath, and foam hood. And the material of specific material is CH3COOH, H2SO4, K2COR4, sulfur, and tap water, aqueous, copper chip, tissue washing soap, sucrosa, C12H22O11, and ethanol. In experimental for scheme, modification of sulfur, the first blended 0,5 gram of sulfur in evaporation cup by heating the sulfur until it melts and freezes. Observe crystal stir, and the resulting color is yellow crystal. And 2. Heated 0,5 gram of sulfur powder in the test tube while shaking the tube. Observe the sulfur color change, and the resulting color is brownish yellow. And this observation result and discussion. Modification sulfur. In the sulfur modification experiment, there were two different treatments, namely heating the sulfur in evaporation dish and in a test tube. When sulfur is heated in evaporation dish using a hot plate, the color changes from yellow to red and the sulfur melts. After being allowed to stand for a few minutes, the sulfur solidifies and crystallizes from. The reaction of occurs S tambah O2 menghasilkan SO2. Sulfuric acid characteristic. In the sulfuric acid characteristic experiment, the first thing to do is heat and paste of copper in a test tube containing 1 ml H2SO4. When heating takes place, bubbles are formed. After the heating process is stopped, the color changes from clear to brownish yellow. The reaction that occurs in the experiment is as follows. Cu tambah 2 H2SO4 menghasilkan CuSO4 tambah 2 H2O tambah SO2. And the next is tepat filter paper moistened with K2CR4 solution at the mouth of the test tube in the first experiment, then heat it. When heated slowly, the yellow color on the filter paper disappears or turns white. The reaction that occurs in the experiment is as follows. K2CR4 O4 tambah CuSO4 menghasilkan C2CrO4 tambah K2SO4. Then the next step is to put sucrose into a test tube and 10 drops of concentrated H2SO4, then heat it using Bunsen heating. When heated, the color changes to black. And the last step is to put 2 ml of acetic acid into the tube, then add 2 ml of ethanol and 2 ml of concentrated H2SO4. Heat the test tube using a Bunsen burner. During the heating process, the heated solution causes bubbles to form and smell like an inflatable balloon. The reaction that occurs in this experiment is as follows. CH3COOH tambah C2H5OH tambah H2SO4 menghasilkan CH3COO C2H2 tambah H2O. And the conclusion of this practicum is, based on the experiment that have been carried out, it can be concluded that the modification of sulfur can be seen from change in the structure of the sulfur itself, which is marked by a change in color and the formation of crystal lines. As for the experimental characteristic of sulfuric acid, it can be concluded that sulfuric acid has the property of being an oxidizing agent, which is called an oxidation agent. Okay, that's enough that I can say. More and less I apologize. Thank you. Wabillahi taufiq walhidayah. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.